Welcome to the Diversity Connector podcast, where we explore the rich tapestry of human experiences. I'm your host, Gertrude Mache, and I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the country on which we meet today. I would also like to pay my respects to elders, past, present, and emerging, and together as we dive into conversations that bridge cultures, challenge stereotypes, and celebrate the unique perspectives each of us brings to the table. Each episode is a journey through stories and insights from a kaleidoscope of voices, each sharing their colorful narrative. Whether you're at home, on the go, or just anywhere in between, you're now part of a community that values understanding, inclusivity, and the beauty of diversity. So plug in your headphones, get comfortable, and let's connect through the power of our shared stories. Welcome, and thank you for joining us on the Diversity Connector podcast. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Diversity Connector. This is Gertrude Mache here, based here in I'll do that again. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Diversity Connector. This is Gertrude Mache here in beautiful Melbourne, Australia. And today I am graced with the presence of yet another fascinating woman. Welcome, welcome, welcome to our tribe. Please tell everybody your full name, where you're based, how old you are, and share your story with us today.
Hi, Gertrude. Thanks so much for having me again. My name is Lynda DeMartino, and I'm based out of Los Angeles, California. I am originally from Connecticut, which is where all my family is from, hence why it took so long to get here. But I slayed a lot of dragons, and I decided that I was going to live for the first time in the place that I've always wanted to be. And I can tell you that since arriving here, it has been better than any of my dreams could have imagined. So part of me is here to tell all women, no matter how old you are, it's never too late to live your dreams. Never. I feel like I'm 30 years old and just starting out again, even though I've lived a pretty long, full life so far. My first half was learning and observing and figuring out, what's wrong here. And my second half, I plan on implementing my talents to fix it. Because since the age of about 5, I realized that I was at a distinct disadvantage for not having a penis. I had 3 brothers, and they seemed to get all sorts of, treats and accommodations just for the appendage alone. And I was relegated to doing a lot of manual labor, strictly because I lacked such appendage. I also witnessed the men around me making important decisions based on ego, emotion, not facts, not data, but also kind of gaslighting the women around me at the same time, telling them that their behavior was based on emotion and feeling. So I never could reconcile how there was a distinct disconnect between what the men were doing and saying to reality. Then I entered the corporate world as a meeting planner right out of college, which was great because I love to travel. I'm very social. Hospitality is just in my blood. And it was the perfect fit for me. It allowed me to meet new people all around the world, create teams for a short period of time. We became like family, and then the event would come to fruition, and then it's on to the next. So for 30 years, I truly loved my career. On the home front during that time, I got married to my college sweetheart. We grew up across the street from each other. Thought we would grow old together, but unfortunately that did not happen. The more powerful I became in my career, the more problematic our marriage became, and insecurities on his part turned to drug use, and he is now, unfortunately, an addict and not part of my life or my children's life at all, which is, one of the saddest parts of my story. I got a divorce in 2018, which was a big deal. Our families were both very enmeshed, but I knew deep down that he would never change. And I kept waiting for some miracle of change to come that I finally figured out was never going to happen. And then after that, I started looking around, focusing at work on all of the same types of messaging coming towards me that I knew was not the real deal, and behaviors and policies that were so clearly meant to not progress women in the workplace, more performative than real policies, real measurable policies. I became a DE&I advocate at my last job at Deloitte Global, which I absolutely loved, spreading the word, enlightening, mostly the white audience, who were completely unaware of so many microaggressions in the workplace, and just you name it. It was like opening a whole new door of information to people that I really assumed they would already be aware of. And at the same time, I was maxed out of my class or your job band. So I was working harder than ever and not making more money, which I thought was ridiculous, especially considering the company was making record profits. So I decided, you know what? I'm waiting for an invitation that's never going to come yet again, just like with my ex-husband. I realized it was a great job, good money, got to travel, lots of perks. But at the end of the day, I was not being recognized for everything I was bringing to the table. And I knew I had more to give. So I quit with no real plan on what I was going to do. And I took a whole year living off my 401k to sit in the discomfort of what's coming next. How can I move the needle on this in a real way? And after doing a deep dive into LinkedIn and really connecting with like-minded people, I realized that there is a huge gap for funding women founders, especially Black women founders. Women in general get a fraction of the money that's on the street. Black women don't even make the graph. That's how little they get. So, the data has been around for decades that show women are a better investment. We pay the money off faster. The gains are greater. The data's been there, but the will to actually open up a seat at the table for women has not been there. And I don't believe that invitation is ever coming. So it's time we create our own seats at the table. Women have been doing workarounds for centuries because they've lacked the power to just go out and do what they want to do. So we've always had to do workarounds. Today is no different. Our media is complicit. Education is complicit. The workplace is complicit. We need to find workarounds to empower women just like me, just like you, to stand into your own power and unite as one to show our strength and make real change. And one specific example I give everyone is back in 2015, Mark Benioff, the CEO of Salesforce, multi-billion-dollar corporation, found out by chance that the women working in his organization made significantly less than the men. in similar jobs. He didn't have any idea this was common practice. So he called his HR people in and said, this is so, this can no longer be so. I need you to fix it so that everyone is paid equally, no matter the gender. He was able to flatten the gender gap at Salesforce back in 2015-16, less than a year, for a total cost of $8.7 million. When that happened, he got great press, was on 60 Minutes. I'm thinking, this is the beginning. They're all going to follow. Here we go. We're going to start. And guess what? Not one company did. They closed ranks. I don't know if they had a special meeting, a secret meeting to figure out how to squash any further movement in that direction. But all I know is it didn't start a revolution. It was a blip, and then it went away, and nobody ever talks about it except me. Because when I see corporations talking about about flattening the gender gap, and now we're up to 132 years, so we're actually going in the opposite direction. I bring up this question all the time. If Mark Benioff was able to do it in 2015-16 for $8.7 million, why can't you? It is a conscious choice. And we have to start recognizing that it is, in fact, a conscious choice to keep women out of the power in the boardrooms. We will only get to a certain level. That invitation to have a real seat at the table is never coming. So it's time for us to build our own boardrooms, our own tables, because we all know once we are in full power and can run our own ships, there's nothing holding us back. Women have been running the show forever, but while also trying to spin 1,000 other plates and keep everything the status quo, so that nobody is offended if she does too much or contributes too much to her work life. There's all of these limitations put on us. Not only do we have to work and kill it, we have to be a perfect mother, perfect wife, perfect housekeeper. None of that is reality. No one is. I've yet to meet the perfect mother, wife, housekeeper, worker. No one's perfect. We're all just trying to keep it together and do the best we can. And, the messaging that we've received over the last 50 years has just gotten worse. Everyone is under this impression that, oh, look how far women have come in the workplace. No, not really. Not really. Not where it counts. So we've been sold a bill of goods, and I'm here to break that down, dismantle that messaging, and flip the script and actually use facts and data, and then connect the dots to explain exactly what's happening here. Because it is not coincidence that we are now going backwards to 132 years to close the gender gap. That is not coincidence. That is a conscious choice. And now it should be time for corporations who are responsible for most of these policies, perhaps at Davos, at the World Economic Forum this year, 2024, I think would be a great opportunity for them, since they're all together, to have someone explain why Mark Benioff was able to do it and no one else can. It seems like a fairly simple question to me. I've asked it over and over and over again on LinkedIn. I get tons of eyeballs, but no one will answer the question. So, it's like the nuclear football, and I'm not letting it go. I will keep asking until I get an answer. Sorry, my dog is trying to play with me in the background. So my goal is to energize women into believing that if you feel you have something more to give and you're not getting the respect that you deserve, either at home or in the workplace, and you feel like you're being taken advantage of, It's time to figure out how you can change that, because nobody else is going to do it for you. It's up to you to step into your power. It's up to you to make your plan. It's up to you to honor the little girl inside who wanted so much and then was beaten down into accepting so much less. Those days are over. Those days are over. We had a summer renaissance of the women. We had Beyonce, Pink, Taylor Swift, the Barbie movie. We kicked ass at the bank, in the box office, everywhere that mattered. We are at a precipice of taking our rightful place. And it's only going to work if we all band together and stand up together as one to show our strength. And we can change the world, quite literally change the world overnight. All it takes is the will, and we will support. We have the support of so many people like me who have done it already and are so grateful to have done it, that I would do anything to give other women that feeling of freedom and power. So my question is, who's with me?
Oh my gosh. I just don't have the words. Listening to you speaking is like music to my ears. And your story is amazing. There's so much we need to unpack here. I don't even know where to start, but let's start with innovative event strategies. With over 30 years experience in event management, could you share a particularly challenging event scenario and how you utilize your skills to flip the script, as you say, for a successful outcome?
Well, I'm always pushing for what's different, especially when you are with financial services companies. These people have been everywhere, been experienced everything. I'm always trying to change it up and, incorporate community service projects into wherever we are so that we leave a footprint behind. We're not just coming, spending, and leaving. We're leaving our footprint there to say, we helped while we were here. It took me probably 3 years to get that implemented, but then it became, with one specific meeting, it became the best part of the meeting for most of the attendees because they look forward to it every year. And it feels good when you have something to be proud of instead of just being a consumer. And, tapping into that and seeing people come alive is really what I feel like I'm meant to do. I'm not meant to produce an informative session of, boring facts and figures. I want to get people where they live. I want to awaken in them the will to make change, to do things better and different. And if you're in a session and it doesn't feel right and we've been stuck inside for so long, let's go outside. Let's go in the parking lot. I've pulled some rabbits out of hats to break it up when I saw that, people were zoning out and not interested. We started putting ping pong tables in the backs of the rooms to take movement breaks. And, today's meeting attendees are very they're not the old meeting attendees that are satisfied with a buffet and a coffee break, and then we sit down at the table again for 3 hours. Time is too valuable for today's attendees. So if they don't feel like they're getting the maximum out of every minute spent, then to them it's a waste of time. So if we don't engage them in, content that's different, presenters that are different, instead of seeing the same white men over and over again. There are a lot of powerhouse women that have a lot to say that grab you from the jump. And why aren't they on stage? It's still a majority 70-30 of male to female presenters. Why is that?
So, really looking at incorporating principles of equity and inclusion, how do you manage to do this, especially in the high level C-suite programs and luxury events that you might put together?
So following with what I was just saying, making sure that our presenters offer a diverse, uh, it's a diverse group of presenters, and making sure that the content does not only apply to a specific slice of the audience, it needs to apply broadly. We don't think about the look and feel and how it affects people and engaging them in the program. And I always fought for the extras to create an environment that people would be engaged and
Yes.
feel like they can, make a difference instead of sitting there like a stenographer. And I knew how important everyone's time was. So maximizing that with whoever's on the stage. And I fought if there was somebody that, people wanted on the stage that I knew would not align with the end goal or the main goal of the conference, I fought to get them off the stage because, if everything's not in alignment, then there's a chink in the armor. And
Yeah.
we can't, for, ego purposes or whatever superfluous reasons, we cannot come out of alignment for nonsense like that. And I stood my ground. And at the end of the day, it was the right call. I mean, I
Yes.
think too many people are afraid to stand their ground and speak up when they see that, A, this is not a good idea. And, you're talking about a lot of money. It's a
Yeah.
fairly big expenditure. So wouldn't it be better to have the people involved voice concerns before the expenditure is made instead
Yeah.
of just staying silent? But the culture is silent. The culture is silent. Unless you
Yeah.
have power, you don't want to raise your hand because you're in fear of losing your job, or, I never had that internal muzzle. I just if I saw something was not going to work, and especially if it was going to be a detriment to the whole program, I couldn't in good conscience keep my mouth shut.
You
I
had
had
to
to
stop.
say, we can't do this. We have to find another way. And you have
So, one of the things that really strikes me about your work is your female empowerment coaching. What unique challenges have you observed for female founders, especially for Black female founders in the luxury, hospitality, or fashion industry, or just business in general? I know we had a bit of a conversation about this before we started recording.
Mhm. I think women are still waiting to be included
Mm.
and not really stepping into their full power. They're tiptoe in, tiptoe back, tiptoe in, tiptoe back. And my message is that invitation is not coming. That is not coming. The only way women can really step into their full power is to do it on their own. And, I'm not saying make rash decisions without really looking at the consequences of whatever their actions can be, whether it's in getting out of a marriage that's no longer working or changing jobs. I mean, it's not something you're just going to wake up one day and say, well, I'm done. But I really believe so many women feel like there's so much more out there. This
Mm.
can't be all there is. I know there's more to my life. There's a lot of women who were in the workplace, left the workplace, and now trying to come back to the workplace thinking they have nothing to give. And I say, oh no, you've managed children. There's nothing harder than managing that show.
Yeah,
And
that's
he with what, keeping your sanity while being responsible for managing children in this day and age is no small feat. So, those are skills, soft skills that translate so well to business. I don't count yourselves out because you took a pause to raise your children. You have so much more to offer besides the history before you left and what you've learned since you left in a whole other scope of work, raising children. That's like being a UN ambassador. I mean, it really is. It was the toughest job I ever had. I can tell you that. And I still feel like, on most days, I'm not living up to the dream. So
it is amazing how much women can juggle and get things done, despite all of the odds that are against them. But again, I really want to just delve into how you are helping to change the narrative, how you are helping women to find better ways of presenting themselves, putting themselves forward, and what the future could be if we had more women who are in positions of power, who are supporting other women, because it's not just men who don't fund women.
Right.
It's actually women who don't fund women as well.
Right.
How can we get around that?
Right. So I tell women, first and foremost, you need to quantify your value. Quantify what you bring to the table and what you have brought to the table so that you have facts and figures to go back to come raise time, which is always a very short conversation. And, a lot of women just accept what's given or not given. And then it's a whole nother year of more of the same. And I was shocked at how many women didn't prepare, didn't have a list of accomplishments with quantified out with actual dollars. What does that look like in dollars? I saved you this much money in contract negotiations. You have to build your data because data is irrefutable. So when you go into a raise meeting, your compensation meeting, yearly compensation meeting, you should be armed with data to back up everything you have produced for that company. And I promise you, when you do show up with that data, it's a whole different conversation because they will get away with not paying you if they can. And so far, they've been able to because we haven't asked. We haven't asked.
Take that responsibility ourselves as women as well.
It's hard for women to ask, especially in the workplace. And it's always, oh, well, if, no, men don't do that. Men assume they're getting a raise. Men walk in the door assuming they're getting a raise. And it's why not? If not, women, very difficult to own their worth, speak their worth, and prove their worth. And that's the key in the workplace is quantifying your worth and not accepting less than you deserve. And I also recommend to my clients to get on LinkedIn and look at the surrounding opportunities because you cannot be so pigeonholed where you're at to miss what else is out there. Maybe there's another company that could value you. I had a friend at home who was miserable working for a doctor's office. She hadn't gotten a raise in 3 years. The other women in the office were just nasty, terrible to work with. And I said, do you know how many jobs there are right now for similar opportunities at different times? Why are you staying? The next time I saw her, she couldn't wait to tell me, I took your advice. I asked for a raise. They offered me 25 cents. So I said, you know what? That's not good enough. I'm leaving. Within 2 weeks, she got another job at another female doctor's office, female-run doctor's office. She loves her coworkers. She loves the doctor who owns the practice, and she makes $4.50 more an hour.
Oh, wow.
And she said, it's only because you got me so fired up that I decided to go in there and do it. And I said, well, if we all got fired up and proved our worth, we could change the world. We really can.
So as an expert, As an expert in handling these tough discussions with stakeholders, what key principles guide you in maintaining strategic and thoughtful messaging?
So I really study the situation in advance so that I know what I'm walking into.
Yeah.
And I always point out, I mean, it's really simple when we break it down. And I don't stray from there's how we would like it to be, and then there's the reality of the situation on the ground. So I understand how, we would like it to look like this, but the reality of the situation is it doesn't. And
Doesn't.
we
Yeah.
all need to meet in the reality of the situation, not in the aspirations of what we want it to look like. Let's deal with what it is because people are suffering and it's not getting better. So we're not going to talk about these, you know, goals that are so far away from reality. Let's
Mhm.
focus on what's really happening. And getting
Yes.
people to stay in the reality of the situation is very difficult, but eventually if you stay on it, they accept it. Until people accept the reality of the situation, we cannot change it. If we're constantly talking about something other than what really needs to be fixed, it's never going to change. It's when we
Yes.
focus on, no, we're not talking about such and such, that's possibility 5 years out. We're talking about the world on fire today. And this is
Now.
the reality of that situation. And
Mhm.
sometimes you have to say no. You have to
Yes.
say no. And as women, that's very difficult,
Difficult
but
thing. We
it's
have
the
to
only
start
way to
looking at
survive.
it. So let me finish our interview with a very futuristic question. Let's have a little thought experiment, and I'm going to teleport you to go and meet the 90-year-old you. You're 90 years old, you're sitting on your porch, surrounded by your children, your grandchildren. If you could go and have a conversation with this wise woman, what would you say to her based on how you're living your life right now?
I would probably say to her to calm down. I'm very, I mean, I'm just going to say it pissed because I'm 56 years old and I've been watching this happen for a long time.
Mhm.
Um, and I've been aware of it for a long time. And because of my family and marital situations and all those things, I'm just pissed that we're still here and that we haven't gotten any farther. And I
Yeah.
think that 90-year-old woman is saying, take it easy. It's going to happen. It's happening. And I do believe in my heart that the revolution is here. I think
Yeah.
women have finally awakened and that the feminine is rising and that we are on the road to to an equitable future because we are going to finally demand it. And that's what it's going to take. We're not waiting and asking, we're demanding because
Yes.
we deserve it.
I love that. I love asking that question because a lot of women don't realize that that wise woman is already within us.
Mhm.
She's already guiding you. She's the one who prompts you to have that fire in your heart. So, to any women who are listening right now, trust yourself. When you feel those promptings, just go for it. You are on the right track.
I have a really good exercise I can end with.
Please
I've
share.
found that music often holds the key to our dreams, and playlists are songs that you always go back to when you're either feeling low or just we all have that playlist of the core songs, even
Yeah.
that we've, had for years and years and years. When I took the year off to figure it out, music was a huge piece of it. And I listened to the music I've always gone back to and I paid attention to the words. And I'll tell you, it was like a roadmap. It was amazing how I would think of songs back then in one way and have completely different meanings now. And the lyrics were speaking to me. And I feel like musicians and artists are prophets. So, they've been giving us the clues and the roadmap, and we've been, going towards it, not realizing what really it is. And I encourage women, look at your playlist, the songs that you resonate with the most. Read the lyrics, like live in that playlist, and I guarantee you will come out with an idea of what's next and what do I really need to be doing, because I think it's a way to
Tell us a
connect
few
with
of
our
your
inner self.
the music that you listen to, Lynda.
I'm sorry,
Give
what
us a
night?
few of the
Oh,
yeah.
well, my playlists are very varied. When I was going through my divorce, I can tell you it was definitely a mature audiences only playlist with a lot of Megan Thee Stallion. And, I needed Nicki Minaj and Meg to just give me the power I felt was being taken away from me. And, women my age are so turned off by the language they use. I personally believe they needed to use that language to break through, and look at the success they've had. They
Yes, amazing.
they busted through this male dominated industry by using bold language that gets people's attention, that gets people to pay attention, and it works. It works. They are queens because they have given us the approval to, yeah, I have that power and I'm going to wield it. And we haven't heard
Yes.
music like that in a long time. So that's one of my genres that I constantly go back to when if I feel like I'm running low, the tank's running low on, will to fight, I go straight to that boss bitch playlist. That's what I call it, my boss bitch playlist. And by the end of it, I'm ready to go. I'm charged up because that's my song. That's my inner song is let's go, let's fight, let's change, and having those women who really took the hit for a lot of us when you think about when they came out. And an article just came out about Meg Thee Stallion, how she was thinking of self-harm as recently as 6 months ago, and she's on
Yeah,
top of the charts.
I know.
So,
I know.
it's I
Shocking.
think using music and whatever speaks to you to get you through and to really pay attention to the lyrics, I think you will be surprised at what you take away from that.
I love it. Linda, thank you so much for coming online today and sharing your story. It
Thank
is
you.
inspiring to see what you're doing with your own life, but at the same time, you're pulling up so many other women with you. So thank you for your work.
Thank
And
you.
thank you
Thanks for
to
yours.
everybody who's tuned in today. The Diversity Connector is connecting you with some pretty phenomenal people from all over the world. So come back again tomorrow when I interview another amazing guest. In the meantime, have a fantastic day, morning, or evening, wherever you are in the world. And Lynda, thanks again for the interview.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure.
Bye for now, everybody.
Bye-bye.
That's a wrap, everybody, on today's episode of the Diversity Connector podcast. Thank you for tuning in and being part of our vibrant and global conversation. I'm your host, Gertrude Mache, and it's been an honor to share this space with you, where voices from all walks of life come together to weave a tapestry of diverse perspectives. Remember, every story you've heard today is a thread in the larger fabric of our shared humanity. So, as you step back into your world, carry these stories with you and let them inspire you to embrace and celebrate the rich diversity around us. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review our podcast to help us share these inspiring stories with more listeners. Do follow us on social media by looking for the Diversity Connector podcast for more updates. Until then, keep connecting, keep listening, and keep celebrating the beauty of diversity. This is the Diversity Connector podcast signing off. Stay curious, stay open, and definitely stay connected.